Week 1, Day 3, Foundations of Advertising. Integrated Brand Promotions, or IBP, is the process of using a wide range of promotional tools that work together to create a widespread brand exposure. Here I have a list of tools that fall under IBP, but no means is this a list of all the tools. The first one is advertising, what we'll be studying here. Then you have sales promotion, so like coupons and contests and things of that nature. Point of purchase materials, so that's in the store. Direct marketing, catalogs, infomercials, and emails. You have personal selling. Internet advertising, like displays, banners, and pop-ups. You have social networks like Facebook, Twitter, and blogs. You have podcasting, event sponsorship, branded entertainment, or BPP, which is branded product placement, outdoor signage or billboards, often called out of home, public relations, influencer communication, so this is peer-to-peer when you tell a friend about a product or a brand. And you have corporate advertising. So like I said, this is a list of some of the most popular, but by no means is this everything. For example, guerrilla marketing is not on here, but that falls in that category as well. So let's define advertising. There are 3 criteria for it to be considered advertising. The first one is the communication must be paid for. Paid can also mean barter. It does not mean money has to be exchanged. So barter is like you do a service for me, and in exchange, I'll do a service for you. The communication must be delivered through media. And so this is mass media, personal media, or social media. Mass means the communication that can reach a large number of people, like broadcast, print, and digital channels. Personal media means the communication that is capable of two-way communication on a small scale, so like email or telephone or face-to-face. And social media crosses the boundaries of mass and personal media. The third criteria is the communication must be attempting to persuade. So you have 3 criteria. Must be paid for, delivered through media, and must be attempting to persuade. So people have all sorts of positive and negative perceptions about advertising. Think about what are yours. It must be something positive because you're majoring in this. But do you have any negative perceptions of advertising? So you also have distinctions within advertising. So just advertising is a specific message designed to persuade an audience. But you also have advertising campaigns. This is an integrated series of ads and promotions that communicate a central theme or ideal. So here's an example of that. Everyone has probably seen some Absolut Vodka ads. Absolut is the 3rd largest brand of alcohol in the world after Bacardi and Smirnoff, and it's sold in 126 countries. Much of Absolut's fame is due to its long-running advertising campaign created by the advertising agency TBWA Chiat Day. This campaign started in 1980, and today there are more than 1,500 ads in this campaign. This campaign is the largest running ever. The ads feature an Absolut bottle or a bottle-shaped object in the center and the title Absolut blank at the bottom. So here's examples of that when it first started out. And then they began to change it a little, but the theme is the same. In 2007, Absolut began its In an Absolute World campaign, in which the company posted various scenarios of what the target audience might think would constitute a perfect or absolute reality. And here's some examples of that. And as you can see, these compared to the other ones, they still follow the same theme. It just added more to it. So this is a very long running campaign. So this is an example of a campaign compared to just the advertising one shot. Here's some more of those ads in that campaign. Absolut Chicago, known as the Windy City. Absolut Disco, it looks kind of like a disco ball, and things of that nature. So let's think about who your audience is for your campaigns or for your advertising. The first one is household consumers, individuals who buy and use products for personal use. They are the largest audience for advertising. Total retail spending by households in the United States is $5 trillion. So that would be people like us. Then you have members of business organizations. These are firms that buy and use products to make or resell other products. So like companies that may, let's say, for example, buy car parts, and what they're doing with those car parts is building cars to resell, and that's their product. You also have members of a trade channel. So retailers, wholesalers, and distributors are responsible for distributing and selling goods to business organizations and household consumers. You have professionals. So any professional like a doctor, a lawyer, or a teacher who has special training or certification. And professionals merit a special communication in advertising. The way you advertise to members of a business organization would be very different from the way you advertise to professionals. And then the fifth one is government officials and employees. So members of federal, state, or local governments warrant special communication as well, because of their large volume of business they do with organizations. So think about who your audience is in the future when you're designing advertising. That makes a lot of difference in how you go about your strategy. You can also look at advertising by location. So you have, for example, global advertising. This is advertising that uses a common theme and presentation in all of its markets around the world. It's rare for a brand to have universal cultural appeal, but when it does, global advertising can be used. So the same message is applied to all the countries worldwide. Then you have international advertising. An advertiser prepares and places different advertisings. That is the key distinction from global advertising. But they prepare and place different advertisings in each different national market where the brand is sold. The ad message is tailored to each country. Next, you have national advertising. This is advertising that reaches all areas of the nation. Regional advertising, advertising concentrated in a particular geographic region of a nation. So like the East Coast or the Midwest or the West Coast. Those are regional advertisings. And then you have local advertising. This is advertising directed at a single trading area, typically a city or a state. So you might have like Harrisonburg or Chicago, Virginia, or DC. So here's an example. This ad for tires ran in Italy. Do you think it's international or global advertising? The translation here is scratch the asphalt. This is international advertising because they have two different creative strategies. Your creative strategy is what you want the target to take away from the ad. The first one was prepared and ran in Italy for Italy. And then the second one was prepared and ran in the US for the US. So this would be an example of international advertising. So here's one for Coca-Cola. Do you think this is global or international advertising? The translation here, one was ran in Portugal and one was ran in the US, and the translation here is open happiness. This is considered global because they have the same strategy. Remember, the creative strategy is what you want the target to take away from the ad. The strategy is Coke makes you happy, and they're saying the same thing in each ad. Let's talk about the marketing mix. The marketing mix refers to four primary areas of decision making in marketing. You have product, you have price, promotion, and place. Place is the same as distribution. Advertising is part of promotion. It plays an important role in bringing the marketing mix decisions to life in the market. The four of these together creates a perceived brand value. So you have a brand, you know the price of it, you know what the product is, you have a place of distribution, and then you have promotion, the advertising. All of these together equals perceived brand value. What about brand management? Brand defined is a name, a term, sign, symbol, or any other feature that identifies a product or service as distinct from those of other sellers. So brand would be Coca-Cola or Pepsi or Sprite. Those are brands. A brand is the product's most precious asset. The most valuable brand in the world is Coca-Cola, which is valued at $65.32 billion. Effective advertising is a competitive advantage for a brand. So if you have awesome advertising, that can make a difference between your value of Coke or the value of Pepsi. Advertising affects brand development and management in four important ways. The first one is information and persuasion. Advertising informs and persuades target audiences about the value of a brand and what it has to offer. So without that advertising of that brand, you wouldn't know anything about the brand. And remember that word of mouth is included in advertising as well. Advertising also introduces a new brand or brand extensions. So a brand extension is using an existing brand name for a new product. So like you have Apple computers, and then they came out with the iPhone, the iPad, the iPod. Those are brand extensions. Advertising is essential to inform consumers about these type of extensions. You also have brand loyalty. This occurs when a consumer repeatedly purchases the same brands. So like for myself, I use an iPhone, and every time I do an upgrade, I always get an iPhone. I don't go to a different brand, and that's called brand loyalty. And then creating an image and meaning for the brand. Advertising can communicate how a brand meets certain needs and desires, and therefore plays an important role in attracting consumers to brands they find useful and satisfying. So let's talk about the role of advertising in the economy. Advertising communicates the value of a brand. This includes the social meaning, the trends, the norms, cultural identification. People like a brand, people buy a brand. And this is what advertising helps to communicate. Economics of sale. This is high volume sales results in production, which results in jobs, which results in a better economy. So people who are for advertising feel that without advertising, our economy would go down and wouldn't be valued as much. So the first key term with advertising on the economy is gross domestic product. This is a measure of the total value of goods and services produced within an economic system. As advertising stimulates the economy and helps ensure the success of new products, consumers' spending rises and it affects the gross domestic product, often called GDP. You also have competition. Advertising can stimulate greater competition as organizations strive to develop innovative products to advertise. However, large advertising expenditures can act as barriers to entry into a market. So a company like Coke, who has a lot of money to spend on advertising, and then you may have a soda like Jones Soda who don't have the same amount of money to spend on advertising, and that creates a barrier to entry into the soda market. Prices. The amount of money a company spends on advertising does not necessarily mean that it will affect the sales of a product. So for example, in 2009, Honda spent $1.2 billion on advertising that only generated $90 billion in sales. That's only 1.3% sales. And when you think about how much they spent on advertising, it did not affect the sales of the product. And then you have value. Consumers' perception that a product or service delivers satisfaction beyond the cost incurred to acquire the product or service. So basically we're saying, did I get my money's worth? I spent $800 on an iPhone. Was it worth it? What is the value of what I purchased? So this was an overview of the foundations of advertising. It gives you insight of what we'll cover in this class and what you'll cover in future classes to come. Enjoy the rest of your day.